Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another session of the 17th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. We have with us today Rebecca Cottrell, who's an online and hybrid course development analyst in the social work department at Metropolitan State University in Denver, and has worked with designing equitable and accessible online classes for more than 5 years. And she's really passionate about ensuring all students have access to course materials and a positive class experience in person and in online modalities. Yeah. And Sean Ragland is a Reach-It graduate in the MSW program, has research interests in disability studies and accessibilities, and he's worked in the department for the past 2.5 years to ensure the accessibility of social work courses. That's great. And we have Jeremiah Easley, a senior who's soon to be graduating as an English major, who's then going to move on to get a master's degree in library science. Terrific. And I take it you've been assisting with accessibility in the department over the past 6 months or so. So it's great having all three of you here. The topic is a topic that's dear to my heart and is important in everything that people in our field do. So let me turn it over to you three.
Great, thank you. Let me adjust my screen sharing for you all. As Bob said, we're talking about accessibility from the inside out. We're transforming courses through student-led accessibility efforts. And we have, as Bob said, a real live student here with us today. That's Jeremiah and a recent graduate, Sean, who are here presenting with us. So excited to hear from them and very excited to have their support in accessibility in our department. Some goals and some things we want you to take away from this session are applying social values and student perspectives in accessibility planning, and to consider ways that you can involve students as accessibility advocates in your classes and programs. Bob did a little bit of this intro for us, but just as a little recap, I'm the online and hybrid course development analyst in the social work department. They joke that means that I'm the online Mary Poppins. So if it has to do with online, I do it. And also I'm really passionate about accessibility and am certified through the International Association of Accessibility Professionals to do accessibility work. Sean?
Hi, everyone. My name's Sean. I'm an alumni of MSU Denver. I have an MSW, and right now I'm working in some clinical aspects, social work, licensed clinical social worker, addiction counseling, and with other programs. I've worked for Becky for a long time. I love it. I keep telling her to hire me every year, so here I am. And we have done some proactive accessibility training as well for myself through MSU Denver. That was really great and gave me a good head start on everything.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah. I am a undergrad BA creative writing at MSU Denver. I've been working with Becky for, like you said, around 6 months doing accessibility work. And I've really gotten an opportunity to dig my heels in and learn a lot in those 6 months.
Great. We wanted to start today with a little bit of a survey. So we've got 5 questions through a poll everywhere that will ask you to participate. What is your comfort level with incorporating accessibility practices in your courses? So we've got 5 questions. You can join a couple of different ways. You can send a text to 37607. You can scan this QR code. And then we'll have a couple of questions that we'll walk through together. And as I'm looking at our numbers of participants, maybe if you're comfortable, maybe we switch out and instead of a poll everywhere, we do just pop a number in the chat. Does that seem better?
Yeah.
Aaron, Anna, Bob, what do you think? There's a few enough of you. So let's just pop in the chat. Our first question is, what is your level of comfort in understanding your students' accessibility needs? You've got A, B, C, and D. You have very comfortable, uncomfortable, neutral, comfortable, or very comfortable. And if you just pop A, B, C, or C, D, or E in the chat, then that might be a... All right, we've got a 4, we've got a 5. Excellent. Good, we've got some accessibility pros here. Next question, we'll do the same chat feature. Let's see if I can. Okay. What is your level of comfort in creating accessible LMS pages using headings, alt text, etc.? Again, A is very uncomfortable, B is uncomfortable, C is neutral, D is comfortable, and E is very comfortable. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 also. So pop in the chat. We've got a 4, we've got a 3, we've got a 2. Okay, so kind of in the middle there. Good, nice group of folks. Our next one is, what is your level of comfort in creating accessible documents like PDFs or PowerPoints? Same scale. So 1 is very uncomfortable, 5 is very comfortable. We've got 3 levels in the middle. We've got a 5, we've got a 3. So again, nobody's totally brand new to this. That's great. I'm going to pop on. Next question. What is your level of comfort in collaborating with students to support accessibility? So same scale, 1 is a very uncomfortable, 5 is very comfortable. How do we collaborate with students? Oh, we've got a 5. Great. Got a 4. Perfect. So we've got quite a bit of, okay, so some people are familiar, some people are a little less familiar. Good. I'm hoping that we'll have some opportunities to share ideas, and particularly that Sean and Jeremiah can help you see where you might have some new ideas on collaboration. Great. Thank you for participating in our survey. We just like to know who's in the room and where we're going. So Jeremiah, take us next. Tell us about accessibility.
Absolutely. So what we've got here is just values associated with accessibility, generally in education. So we've got the value, good design helps everyone here on the right. Accessibility is not exclusive to people with disabilities. When we make something more accessible, we make it easier to interact with. This helps everybody. The usual fable that people bring up in this context is an automatic door. It's designed to help people with mobility issues like wheelchairs or walkers, but once implemented, they make everyone's life more convenient. If you're carrying heavy boxes and you approach a big heavy door that you have to manually open, that's harder than an automatic door, whether you have a disability or not. This is also true for digital accessibility, which is what we do. Improving courses access to screen readers helps the busy student who listens to course material on the train on the way to class. Improving color contrast in documents helps prevent eye strain during those late night study sessions. Accessibility is often framed as a lot of work for a very small minority of people, which is not true on a number of levels. For one, many people, probably the majority of people, have some kind of disabling influence in their life or some kind of disability. But primarily, it's not true because there is no accessibility work that doesn't benefit every single person that interacts with that artifact, including in education. Second value, disability is socially applied. Disability isn't an objective reality, it's a constructed one. That means society creates structures that systemically advantage the able-bodied. As you all know, you all said that you were very familiar with accessibility, so you're aware of the theory. It's only through those structures that disabled people experience handicap. So society decides that stairs should go there instead of a ramp, and that's why a person in a wheelchair can't access this building, not because they are inherently less valuable as a person for being in a wheelchair. Our goal as accessibility professionals and educators is to dismantle these structures and create a level playing field for all students to learn equally. Finally, and this is an important one for educators, education is a human right. Everybody deserves access to an education. Therefore, we as educators have a responsibility to serve every person, no matter their ability, race, creed, color, to the best of our ability, no matter theirs.
Wonderful. Thank you. Going next. So we know why accessibility is important. We've talked about that. You're here because you care about accessibility and you have some baseline level of that. But the question for today is why collaborate with students? So I get to kick this off. This is my why. First, a lot of the work that I do is founded in design justice work, which we're not going into too much today. But one of those principles is that we should include the voices of those impacted by design. And when I design courses, the people who are most impacted are students. And so involving students in course design and particularly in accessibility means that they get to have a voice in something that really impacts them. One of the other reasons that I love to collaborate with students on accessibility is students are in these classes as users. They're there every day, more than I am as a designer, probably more than most of our faculty members are. They're opening up every single item, every single page in there for all of their courses every week. And they have eyes on a lot of things that I just don't as a designer on a regular basis. And so they are in those classes, they use it, they know how to use it and know how to make things that work well for them. And the last thing is students are brilliant. I was just telling Jeremiah and Sean as we were preparing for this presentation today that this presentation is better because they're part of it. I just think about their contributions and ideas and suggestions that they have brought up are things that I wouldn't have thought of. And being able to expand that, have them share their ideas and contribute different knowledge from a different generation, from a different perspective, really strengthens the work that I do. So that's why I collaborate with students. But we're going to give Sean and Jeremiah a minute to talk about their whys. Sean?
Why collaborate with students? Like Becky said, design justice, I think, is very important because you're including the voices of those that are impacted. I think it's important to ask people with an experience if they're being served by your design. But my whys were I believe it reduces the workload for faculty and staff. You could give us as students let's call it the grunt work or the busy work or the stuff that just piles up on you. And if you're like me, that stuff is fun in a weird way, but it's also being part of the team, part of the social work department, and so it makes me feel like I'm contributing and it's what I want to be doing. Also, it helps students build social capital. Myself, I'm a first generation student, and so my social capital has nothing to do with higher education, how to go to a master's program, how to apply for a PhD. And through this, I've built a lot of social capital. There's two people on this call I know for sure that I've built some capital with. And it's amazing because whenever I started, I wasn't out to build social capital. And I don't think faculty is thinking, I'm going to build social capital. It's just one of those things that happens as a byproduct of working with students. And then when you collaborate with students, the students that you work with can advocate for other students. Some students may not come to you with problems or issues, or they may be afraid of. I know I was afraid of professors my first time in college, or they don't want to be a bother, or they've asked you once and things get busy. But as a student advocate, if I hear something just in class, I'm all right to go advocate for that. And I can talk to students and ask them just questions like, "What's your experience with accessibility?" Especially after they know what I'm doing in the department, I can get more input. And I think that with the workload that faculty and staff have, that's harder to do. That has to be like a program or a plan thing. Whereas I just walk into class and ask questions. And so that's what I would add for today.
And Jeremiah.
I think that students bring a user-centric perspective to accessibility. What that means is students are the users. I have Canvas open in another page right now, and pretty much all the time, 24/7, Canvas is open on my computer, just so I'm getting notifications for the assignments that are coming in. So we are, as Becky said earlier, always interacting with these programs from the perspective of the consumer. And this generation of students in particular has more experience attending school entirely online than any generation before. We are the COVID generation, whether it's incoming students who went through it during high school or students who are just about to graduate, like myself, who went through it during college. We know what it was like to have everything suddenly switch to online and the many struggles that come along with that as people unexperienced with working in an online space are attempting for the first time to work with online accessibility. This uniquely positions us to assist with course design for the reasons I said a moment ago.
Great, thank you so much. So a little bit of a summary here. Student and staff accessibility collaboration, that's kind of what our group represents. Some of the benefits to the department are students are participating in course content. It's a reduced workload for faculty and staff. Benefits to students is they get to be advocates. They get to use their social work values in this case. They build social capital and they work closely with department staff and faculty. So really some solid benefits in both directions. So one of the things that I've asked Sean and Jeremiah to do, and we'll spend the next little bit on this, is sharing some of the things that they have created or worked on associated with their accessibility work. So Sean, take it away.
Okay, thank you. This is a student-facing video that Becky asked me to create. And, this is another benefit for students is this was very nerve-wracking to do, but I'm proud of the video today. I think it hits the points we wanted to hit, and so we wanted to include it today. But just go ahead and hit play, Becky.
Okay.
Did you know there are 61 million adults in the United States with a disability? That's 1 in 4 people. There's also a 25% chance you will have a disability at some point in your life. I want to make the point that disability affects all of us. I believe people with disabilities should have the same rights as the wider population, and that includes their ability to engage with, learn from, and communicate via the digital world. Hi all, my name's Sean, and I'm a student in the Department of Social Work at MSU Denver. This video has been created to raise awareness about accessibility. I will explain accessibility, tell you why you should care about it, and show you some ways you can help our fellow students with disabilities. Start with accessibility. What is it? It's designing things to be usable by people with disabilities. It also helps build equity to ensure all people, regardless of ability, have the freedom to access and interact with all aspects of the physical and digital worlds. So why do we need to know about this? I'll give you one example, Canvas. All the courses at MSU Denver are housed in Canvas, but not all Canvas courses and materials are accessible. Anything that restricts people with disabilities from interacting easily with Canvas should be regarded as an impediment to their ability to participate in their own education. Here's how you can help. Support accessibility at MSU Denver. You can do this. Learn more about accessibility. Include disability in the conversation about equity. Work to make sure our courses and materials in Canvas are accessible and inclusive, including the ones we create. Report items in Canvas that are not accessible. And I'll give you 2 ways to do that. First, just let your instructor know you found something that wasn't accessible. The second method is there's actually a button in Canvas that will allow you to report inaccessible items. So first, open a browser and go to Canvas, and then go to your dashboard and click on a class. Here on the left-hand side, you'll see the link to report an accessibility issue. Click the link and then click the Open a New Tab button. You will be at the Accessibility at MSU Denver website and just scroll down to the bottom to this Digital Accessibility Contact Form. You're going to want to click Submit Question and Comment, and then just fill this out with as much information as you can, and then hit Submit. I'd like to end with this. Disability advocacy is about equity, access, and rights. The NASW Code of Ethics says that one value we have as social workers is social justice. We challenge social injustices. Therefore, we as social workers must include disability in all conversations about social justice. Thank you.
John, should I stay on this slide or move to the next one?
Yeah, you can go ahead and move to the next one.
Did you know there are 61?
Yeah, to go off of that video, I wanted to share kind of 5 things that I think are important and that I can. It's kind of like a mission of mine or values, goals. It's the higher level stuff that's kind of theory or thought-based items that I use to guide my accessibility work. And the first one is just to raise awareness about it. A lot of folks don't realize that most of us are going to be disabled at some point in our life, and we're going to rely on something for accessibility. And it's, the young generations are prime in America, so we don't want to even look at the possibility of being disabled or have to rely on other things. It's just not our way. So I want to raise awareness about it and make it not such a scary thing. Also empower students to create accessible content. Becky and I worked on some research that found that more than half of the content in Canvas is student created, and it's not accessible, and there's no research on it. And so you might spend all of your time building an accessible course, but if you don't have your students put in accessible, discussions or photos or whatever it is you're doing, then half of your course still can't be accessed by those with disabilities. Also address barriers students with disabilities face in higher education. I think that a lot of folks believe, including myself at the time, that, oh, we have an access center, just go there. And there's a lot of issues around that. Students might not want to do that. Students might go and have a bad experience. Students might go and still not get what they need. The turnaround on that stuff may be too slow. And it's, some folks don't have a visible disability that they want to share. And so it's important to address those barriers and break them down. Also, it promotes self-determination for everyone. And then finally, as a social worker, one of my, part of my code is to make things more inclusive and equitable. And this does that in higher education.
Okay, so this one's me. First, I'm going to start this out by saying my goal here is to pitch you to utilize more students in your accessibility work. So I noticed that we got a lot of high ratings on experience working with document accessibility. Um, because of that, I'm sure that you know PDFs are by their nature a difficult format to make accessible. The way they work is they compress text by converting it into images. To remediate this, we have to come in and re-encode these images with text. So we're basically undoing that compression work by re-encoding all of those images into text again. AI can do some of this work, but a large portion of it is manually correcting what the AIs fail to recognize. Go ahead and go to the next slide. That's where we come in. Student accessibility workers can handle that tedious manual. That's what a lot of my job is remediating PDFs, going through them and looking for misunderstood words and then manually retyping them into the PDF so that it knows what that word is. In exchange, we get new skills that will only become more desirable with time as accessibility advances and improves worldwide in the ever more digital workplace. So I'm coming in, I'm doing all this tedious work for you. In exchange, I get a ton of experience that builds my resume as I move on into my career after university. So it's a win-win, symbiotic relationship.
It absolutely is. And we're seeing a lot more legislation. So the ADA just updated so that it includes digital accessibility. Colorado has passed a law that all state produced content has to be accessible by July 1st of this year. So absolutely valuable, both for you and for our students.
I'm looking at post bachelor careers right now and like looking around, seeing what there is so that I can get started on applying. Almost every single job posting requires some form of DEI work as like part of the job description. So having this experience is extremely useful into the future.
Wonderful. All right. I think we have one more example, Sean.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow one thing that Jeremiah was saying is I think I would say less than 10% of the people that use Adobe Acrobat even know where the accessibility button is. It's not a skill that a lot of people have. It's not a lot of skill that students have. And so your student workers can really help with this. You get them trained up and then if they're like myself, I love that tedious going through stuff work. So it's great. Um, but I just wanted to share some things that I do. The first part I was talking about kind of the theory behind what I'm doing, like what my vision is. And now these are some action items that I actually take, like Jeremiah's PDF remediation, which is, directly affecting folks. I go through our Canvas courses and I found that the top image there of the US, it didn't have any alt text, which is, descriptor. Um, and then the next line down, this is American values there. What we find a lot is people will capitalize those and will um, bold them, and then they'll increase the font size. But a text reader doesn't understand that as a section. So if you're reading a screen reader and you read through American values, and if you need to go back up the page like we would with our eyes to, oh, I want to go back to the American values section, a screen reader can't do that unless that is some sort of heading or a major um, paragraph. It's got to have some value in it that the screen reader knows that the user can just hit tab and tab down the page. And it's a nightmare if it's not headings because uh, you can't see it or read it, so you're just going off of what you're hearing. It really becomes messy. So using headings is very important. And then the third one there, I have links or hypertext. You should avoid this. More and more software is making it easier to copy paste, and it'll change it for you. In Canvas, there's a way you can highlight it, and then it'll say link, and you can hit link, and you can write words out for the link, and then you can put the link in. And the reason is because if the screen reader came down, it would read this as HTTPS slash slash. It would read every single one of those letters, and you just have to sit there and listen to it. And then how are you going to know, where that even goes? And you have some of these DOIs and stuff that are huge, and it's a problem that people don't think about. They're like, oh, I linked it, but the hypertext should really be replaced with common language. And this is kind of what I was talking about. This is how I did it in Canvas, the alt text. It's very easy. You can pull up an alt text box. AI is great for this these days. You could upload the picture, you can give it a description, and it'll give you alt text. You can write your own, which is pretty easy too. There's all kinds of help out there. Harvard has a really great website with accessibility, and so does Arizona State. They have great ways to remember how to write your alt text. And then the heading there, I just changed it to heading 2, and we really can't tell any difference visually that it's a heading, but the screen reader can. And I think finally a big one I see, and this is just because most of us are said, hey, put some videos online, and there's no technical training anymore around unique things unless you're figure it out yourself. But we wouldn't want to put like a hyperlink on this page that said www.youtube/3487x25976 Cadillac commercial. That is very inaccessible. So YouTube allows you to embed web pages. If you don't know how to do that, if you do know, please forgive me. But if you don't, you just hit the share button, and it'll have the embed code. You copy paste that into the HTML of Canvas. It's a whole nother thing, but it's really easy once you do it 2 or 3 times. It's not difficult. And what it'll do is it'll actually put up the YouTube video for you in a YouTube format with closed captions and everything you need. And then at the bottom, I usually put a little hypertext link. Also, just in case the YouTube something happens to it or doesn't load right, I'll put just a short description of what it is. I also like to put how many minutes it is, so students can plan around when to watch the video. But this is really easy to do, and I probably see a lot of this where I have to go in and fix it.
Great. Thank you both. You do a lot of work. We wanted to end here with one last thought from Jeremiah. We're not ending, but ending this portion.
A final key benefit when working with students on accessibility is our access to our peer networks. We can ask fellow students what they think about accessibility and what they want out of their education. Here are a few examples of what that can look like, taken from our fellow MSU Denver students, interviews done by Sean recently.
Perfect. Sean, do you want to share these quotes?
Sure. I believe this is a student who does not identify with any disabilities or doesn't share any disabilities, but we were talking about, I was just asking people questions about disability, and they said that they like to listen to their course documents, on their mobile phone when they're commuting to school or home. And what they found is sometimes they'll want to read a PDF and their program can't read it. It's so frustrating because that's the only time I have to read that. I have to go home and try to figure out how to take care of the baby and make dinner and then get this PDF read when I could have read it on the way home. And they said that, I said, well, that's an accessibility issue. And they said they never realized that that's what that meant, that it was an inaccessible document. and that they gained a new appreciation for folks that rely on that. They use it as a convenience, but there are people that actually rely on it. And so they gained a new perspective that they didn't have before. And this one is very interesting. This is from a student who is blind and deaf and uses sign language interpreters. And I had them for a couple of classes, and I was in a cohort with them, scholarship cohort. But I talk to them all the time and about accessibility, and they said, schools are knowledgeable about what people with disabilities need. And when you first register, they have all the forms you fill out. Do you need any help? And they do reach out, and MSU Denver is very good at this. People will get you the access you need, work with you to get any kind of doctor signatures or testing done, anywhere from completely blind to ADHD, all in between. And however, when it comes to the actual material, the PDF files, the internet pages, the PowerPoints, anything that's digital, there is a large disconnection between knowing what the student needs and ensuring that content is accessible. It's assumed to be accessible. It's passed down as accessible. I've seen quite a few documents that say, chapter 2 reading, uh, you know, human biology, and then there'll be a word that says accessible, and then it won't be accessible. And something could have just changed in that made it inaccessible, but a lot of people will just go off of that and say accessible. And the student said everyone is responsible for making sure they create accessible materials, not just the school, but everyone. But there are no checks in place to ensure it's done. Uh, we usually must find it while doing assignments and let someone know. While we wait for the materials to be made accessible, students without disabilities are doing their homework. So just imagine if you were blind and went into a class, and the first day you found out that chapters 1, 2, and 3 of your reading were all inaccessible, and you tell your professor these are inaccessible. If they know what you're talking about, that's a good thing. They may not understand what you mean. Either way, it's going to take someone like Jeremiah or myself, most likely, a couple of days to go through this PDF and reformat it. And like we said earlier, that's a specialized skill, so you don't have a lot of folks doing that. And we're in classes too, and so folks can wait weeks for assignment readings, and then the assignment comes and goes. And if the teacher is in the know and compassionate, they'll work with the student. If not, they may say, "Hey, I can't. I'll give you another week," uh, just because they don't understand really what the student is facing. Because every piece of digital material coming out may be accessible,
Great.
and so that is extremely frustrating for those students.
Great. Thanks, Sean. So we are not going to break out, but we just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about how you can involve students in your accessibility efforts. We've got the three of us. It looks like Anna had to step out. Aaron, that puts the pressure on you and Bob. Any thoughts about how you can involve students in your accessibility efforts or experiences you've had in the past? Sorry, we're putting you on the spot.
Thanks. It's just what I wanted today. No. I mean, I think right now where I'm really focused in this area is learning more about accessibility and then helping my students make their projects accessible, right? I mean, I don't know that I've thought about involving them more than that, which I'm sure plenty of ways that I can, but at least right now teaching them how to be able to do this as well. So that way, when they get out into the field, if they do trainings, presentations, things that they can make sure everything they're creating is accessible. And I think once I feel more comfortable with that, then I'll branch into more things.
Thank you, Erin. I can also say on your behalf that Sean or Jeremiah is currently assigned to do an audit of your research class. So they're going to be checking your research and contributing that to that. So they'll be helping out in that way as well. So even though you didn't know it, that is one of the ways that you're involving students in your accessibility efforts is that these guys are helping with an audit and supporting you as you support your students in creating accessible materials. So that's wonderful.
That is wonderful because that class will be done tonight. I'm so close.
And,
Good. That's really
Aaron, I
exciting.
just wanted to say, the what you're doing is fantastic. Very few people are doing this, and one of the things that we talk about in our group, in our little online learning group, is you know, even if you make one change, right? One little, I can't do it all, but if I can do if I can change one thing, that helps somebody. And so you're kind of doing it where you're spreading it at a wider audience, and then that's spreading it. So I think that's really cool. It's a good way to just get the word out and like send out the accessibility crew, So I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. It's been fun. They are very confused. We're getting there. So
As
found
we
some
all
really
were.
great resources and different things to help them with being able to do some of that. And it's helping me learn too, right? Because I mean, at this point, my expertise is I can do alt text. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
learning a
hard.
lot through.
It's very difficult. That's
Bob,
why I
have
think
you?
most of the software providers don't do it. It's
Yeah.
it's difficult.
But it is good to involve students in those accessibility efforts because then we're educating the future. And it should hopefully be less of an issue if more people are knowledgeable about it.
I would agree. So for those of you who are watching this recording, I hope that you take a minute and consider how can you involve students. We've talked about some different ways, from PDF remediation to working on Canvas pages to doing accessibility audits to advocating for their students, to Erin really taking that accessibility in mind and helping teach her students to create accessible materials. So I hope you'll take a minute and think, what's one thing you can do to help work with students to make those accessible materials and move forward with that. We wanted to end with a quote. I'm skipping questions. By Imani Barberine, who says, accessibility is not just a set of physical things that are put into place, but a living language that speaks to who society decides to value based on who they allow into the public sphere. Should access not be created, you have spoken to that value system. And should that access be created, that speaks to that value system as well. It's obviously something that we value, and it's something you value as well because you're here today. So thank you for that and for creating a great system for our students. Right.
Well, thank you, Becky and Sean and Jeremiah. As I said, this accessibility is often taken for granted or not even considered. And hopefully we're getting things turned around, but there's still a lot of ignorant people out there that have to be educated. And it's not a question of I'll do it when I have to do it. It's a whole lot easier to do it right from the start. Anyway, I appreciate you guys doing this. It's valuable, and I'm out of gas.
You can imagine. I've seen a lot of you over the last couple of days, Bob. So no, thank you. This was a great surprise. I saw the title and I got excited because I was like, "Ooh, I'm trying to learn accessibility." I didn't even know it was going to be my people. So it's wonderful to see you all. This was great,
You
and now
too.
I
Good
know
to see
exactly
you.
who to go to when I need more resources.